Okay, we have the results of the latest Ireland Thinks poll for the Sunday Independent. It's March, and the state of the parties. Sinn Féin on 27, down 2. Fine Gael on 20, up 1. Fianna Fáil on 18, down 1. Social Democrats on 7, up 2. Labour unchanged on 4. The Greens up 1 on 4. Solidarity, People for Profit on 2, down 1. Aim 2 on 2, down 1. Independents and others on 17, down 1. And Kevin Cunningham, Jodie Corcoran here with me. Kevin, first of all, state of the party. Sinn Féin, I think, at its lowest level ever in the Ireland Think series for the Sunday Independent, and at its lowest level in the Ireland Think series in general. In nearly 4 years, I think.
Since the general election, I guess?
Since the summer of 2020, I think.
Wow. I mean, it is remarkable. I mean, a lot of people thought that Sinn Féin had plateaued, like the decline of Sinn Féin. I definitely thought that they're probably going to hang around the kind of high 20s, but it seems that it's not just the decline of immigration, I guess, that's damaging Sinn Féin. The Social Democrats being up is actually quite interesting as well. They're up to 7%.
They had their conference there a couple of weeks ago, got a bit of a publicity drive out of that.
I mean, is that a thing?
Well, you get your party leader speech on the television. Holly Kearns, the leader, did a couple of interviews in the newspapers. I guess we just heard a little bit more about the Soc Dems. But maybe it's those voters drifting away from Sinn Féin looking for an alternative home. I don't know.
I've always thought that this is sort of inevitable. I mean, I looked at polls for a long time looking at the potential for the Social Democrats, and it seemed likely that there is a subset of the electorate that will vote for who they think is the strongest out of those two parties. Now, obviously, a lot of them are voting for Sinn Féin now, but as Sinn Féin weakens, there are votes that will go. They're looking for an Social Democrats.
Jodie, what do you think?
Well, look, there's an issue here for Sinn Féin. Clearly, there's a serious issue in Ireland. This is the new normal for Sinn Féin. They're at 27%, down from 29. The poll before that, I think we had them 28. Look, 6 months ago, they were in the mid-30s. At the time, we were attributing the fall in Sinn Féin support to the rise in the issue of immigration. In this poll, what's most interesting in this poll is that immigration as an issue is down 10 points, down to 4th place, behind housing, also down. Cost of living, levelled out, plateaued out. Healthcare, slightly above where this issue of immigration is. So while immigration this month is falling as an issue, and falling significantly as an issue, Sinn Féin is not going back up. Has immigration done the damage to Sinn Féin, or are there other issues out there, like housing, like the cost of living?
Take this week, for example, Sinn Féin shipped a bit of criticism for their only MEP voting against the nature restoration law in the European Parliament, and we had an extreme weather event this week, and we also have climate change up 2 points, not massive, but still people's concern about climate change increasing a little bit.
Up, yeah, but
so that
actually
could be
the big issue,
a little bit of a factor.
The big issue here in this poll is they're international issues, but Israel-Hamas
is up.
That's up 6 points.
That's up 6 points as an issue of concern. Even and it's still lowly. The Russia-Ukraine war is up 2 points. Climate change is up, what, 2 points? 2 points, Add them all together, that's 10 points till immigration is down.
I think the problem for Sinn Féin is that they're trying to balance things too much, and you can't really come across as being particularly exciting when you're doing that, right? But there are a lot of their voters who are particularly concerned about climate change as well as everything else. A lot of their voters are very worried about that, and you can see from our poll that there's a strong majority that support the nature restoration law in the public. So trying to ride two horses on immigration and climate change, you can't really be a party of change.
There's a feeling that we're not going to get bogged down in the nature restoration law, but there is a feeling that Sinn Féin voted against that because of narrow political concerns in Midlands North West. Their only MEP, Chris McManus, is Midlands North West. Luke Bing Flanagan was the Midlands North West MEP, the only other MEP, Irish MEP, to vote against the law. So they were kind of looking at it from the perspective of constituency interests.
You're right, but let's not just get bogged down in that issue. Let's just look at the wider poll, because the three government parties have increased support. Fine Gael
all up 1 point each.
Up 1 point. Fianna Fáil and the Greens are up 1 point. Another thing always worth watching in these polls is the popularity of the various party leaders. The three government party leaders, Micheál Martin is up to his highest ever level. Now that could reflect his role in
47%,
as Minister of Foreign Affairs, and that takes us back to those international issues. Eamon Ryan is up. And Leo Varadkar is up and ahead again of Mary Lou MacDonald.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's an issue here. There's a problem here for Sinn Féin, and there's a problem here for Mary Lou MacDonald.
I mean, it's important to bear in mind, like a lot of people who support, like a lot of Fine Gael supporters will rate Leo Varadkar very highly. A lot of Fianna Fáil supporters will rate Micheál Martin very highly, and so on and so forth. It's interesting that, in spite of the fact that Fianna Fáil is the weakest of these parties and Sinn Féin is the strongest, that the positions of the leaders are reversed. It just means that there's a lot of people who are like Sinn Féin voters who might not be as strong about, Mary Lou MacDonald, or, there are people who are outside of Fianna Fáil who actually like Micheál Martin. It's a clear.
So just another one to watch, I think, is the forced choice question that we ask: which of the following would be your preferred governments? Fianna Fáil, the re-election of the current government, 43. That's up 5 points in a month. Sinn Féin-led government, excluding Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, is on 39. That's down 4 points in a month. And then in another forced choice question, would you prefer the current coalition or a Sinn Féin-Fianna Fáil coalition? Support for the current coalition, 40%. That's up 3 in a month. And a Sinn Féin-Fianna Fáil coalition on 39, down 2 in a month. So it does show, I suppose, that the appetite for a Sinn Féin in government has weakened a little bit. Again,
this fluctuates.
It does.
Those questions have jumped around.
Yeah, but you hit on the Mary Lou question there, and the problem for her around her own personal popularity, Sinn Féin's declining popularity. They've a deputy leader in Northern Ireland who has been around a lot in the last few weeks. And we have some interesting polling on that in the Sunday Independent tomorrow and on the independent.ie website. Let's just shift tack, I think, to RTE, which has been the big issue this week in the political bubble, for sure. And we asked about, for example, Catherine Martin, who obviously had 2 very high-profile appearances in the Oireachtas Committee on Tuesday and the Dáil on Wednesday. Jody, in terms of how she's handled matters of RTE, do you have confidence in her as media minister? Yes, 28%, no, 50%, not sure, 22%. What do you think of that?
I think it could be worse for Catherine Martin.
Okay.
I don't have
the public don't have confidence in her.
They're not
great
but numbers.
It's still not.
They're not great numbers.
No.
They're not great, but just what is it? I don't have it in front of me here, but the finding in relation to Sinead O'Reilly.
She is, I'll check that one out because I've right in front of me. She's so in terms of how she's handling matters in RTE, do you have confidence in the former chair? And she's even worse. So she's no 57, yes 16. I think it's
actually
worse.
So
worse for her than it is for Catherine.
Yeah, if you ask the public who did they most support in this, they would say perhaps they most supported Catherine Martin, but not in that regard. I would say it could be worse, but they're not necessarily coming down with support from Martin.
Actually, we asked the question: Who do you think is fair? Do you believe Sinead O'Reilly was fairly treated by Catherine Martin? Yes, 32, no, 34, don't know, 33. So kind of an even split.
Yeah, the coach did important that. Kevin Backhurst is actually doing better, coming out of this poll better than either Catherine Martin or Sinead O'Reilly.
Confidence in him? Yes, 34%, no, 39%, 27%, not sure.
So clearly the dynamic is the RT board, then the minister, then Backhurst, I guess, is being
here's an interesting
viewed as
one,
someone who's actually trying to resolve it.
Because this is a topic about which the media and, as I said, the political bubble has obsessed about this week. But there is a view that the public's interest in this topic has waned massively in the last few months. How would you describe your level of interest in the ongoing issues regarding RT? I'm extremely interested, 25%, moderately interested, 34%. I was following it, but now I've completely lost interest, 30%. I've never had any interest in it, 11%. So what do we make of that?
There's still a lot of interest.
Still of interest, yeah.
And I think you could marry that finding to the finding you might get to it there in relation to exit packages.
Yeah. So that's...
And there's a lot of annoyance and a lot of anger out there about that.
Outraged by the payments, 55%. Annoyed by the payments, 32%. I feel the payments were appropriate, 6%. I don't care one way or the other, 7%.
Well, this is. I mean, I don't think it's something one should ever gloss over. I think there is a sense amongst the general public, amongst this and a whole range of different issues where public money is perhaps just being misspent. It seems to be just a general thing. I think... It's probably not surprising for people.
And the sense of kind of one rule for them, one rule for kind of an elitist class of people who earn 6-figure salaries, and another rule for the hard-pressed squeeze middle, 10 times.
The 450 is 10 times the median wage. It's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What else stood out for either of you?
Well, I mean, I know we've mentioned it a little bit before.
Will we wrap?
I know we mentioned it a little bit already, but it is that the relative salience of the issue of Israel Hamas. That's something that I thought was interesting because it jumped 6 points. I didn't have a clear idea in my head of exactly what that was. Maybe it was that event that happened recently, or maybe it's the absence of other events. That
that was
the
a pretty
food truck
shocking
event.
attack, I think, by the Israeli Defense Forces on people queuing for food in Gaza. Disputed accounts of what happened there, but that's been in the news a lot. I think it shocked a lot of people.
Obviously, there's huge concern about this issue out there. The big spike in the issues of concern is around this, but I think that is reflecting well on the government.
Yeah.
I think generally, I don't think we ask it in this poll, we have in previous polls. I think generally there's approval for the government in how it's handling this issue.
Yeah,
and I think, as I said earlier, support from Micheál Martin at its highest level. I think that has a lot to do with his role as and the strong position he's taking on this and on the Ukraine.
And we asked that about Leo
Minister of Foreign
Varadkar
Affairs.
when Leo Varadkar came in initially about that, and there was significant support for him, and numbers that you would not normally expect for anything when people are asked to evaluate political leaders at all. So,
Okay, thank you very much. There will be a lot more on the Irish Independent website and in the Sunday Independent this weekend.